"Not him, father! I'm afraid of that human warrior!" cried the alien princess. The massive doors of the Imperial War Chamber slid open with a deep hum. Princess Lyrelay walked inside, her silver robes flowing behind her. The room was filled with the Empire's most powerful military leaders. They all stood around a huge holographic table that showed star maps and battle reports. Emperor Zarek sat on his throne at the head of the table. His face was dark with anger. The tall alien ruler had 4 arms and skin that changed color when he was upset. Right now, it was a deep red. "Sit down, my daughter," the Emperor said without looking at her. "You need to hear this." Princess Lyrelay took her place at the table. She had 6 eyes like all Zephyrians, and right now all of them were focused on the worried faces around her. Something was very wrong. General Thaxon stepped forward. He was the Empire's best military commander. His voice was shaky when he spoke. "Your Majesty, we have lost another mining colony. Kepler 186 fell yesterday." The Emperor's skin turned darker red. "How many ships did the rebels use? 100? 200? "That's the problem, sir," General Thaxon said quietly. "Our sensors show only 1 small ship, maybe 2 people inside." "Impossible," shouted Admiral Vexus from across the table. "Kepler 186 had 3,000 guards, heavy weapons, 4 shields." General Thaxon pressed a button. The holographic display changed to show security footage. Princess Lyrelay watched as the images played. Her heart began to beat faster. The video showed the mining colony from above. Everything looked normal at first. Then explosions started happening. But these were not random explosions. They were perfectly planned. Each blast took out important targets, power stations, communication towers, weapon storage areas. "Watch this part," General Thaxon said. The camera zoomed in on a single figure moving between buildings. It was a human. He was smaller than any Zephyrian soldier, but he moved like liquid shadow. The human carried only basic weapons: metal, projectile guns that were thousands of years old by galactic standards. Princess Lyrelay watched in horror as the human warrior did impossible things. He used the colony's own equipment against the guards. He turned their advanced weapons into traps. He moved through their defenses like they were not even there. "How long did this take?" Emperor Zarek asked. 4 hours, Your Majesty." 4 hours to completely destroy our strongest mining operation. The room fell silent. Princess Lyrelay felt sick to her stomach. She had seen the classified reports about this human warrior. The military called him Reaper 7. Nobody knew his real name. "Show them the other colonies," she whispered. General Thaxon nodded and changed the display. More videos appeared, more impossible victories. The same human warrior had hit 12 different colonies in the past 6 months. Each time, he won against impossible odds. "Zeta 4 mining station," General Thaxon narrated. 5,000 guards, defeated in 3 hours. Proxima extraction facility, 8,000 soldiers plus. Robot defenses, defeated in 2 hours. New Titan processing plant, 10,000 troops and orbital support, defeated in 90 minutes. With each report, the human got faster. He was learning. He was getting better at fighting them. Emperor Zarek stood up slowly. His 4 arms were shaking with rage. "This is one human? One single human is destroying our entire mining empire." "Yes, Your Majesty," General Thaxon said. "Intelligence reports say he used to be a mining engineer. His name might be Marcus Chen. He worked for our contractors before the rebellion started." "A mining engineer?" Admiral Vexus laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "You're telling me a worker with basic tools is defeating our best soldiers?" Princess Lyrelay had read the secret files. She knew things the generals did not. This human was different from others. Humans were already strange creatures. They could survive on worlds that killed other species. They ate foods that were poison to most aliens. They could stay awake for days when they needed to. But this human warrior was special even among his own kind. The report said he never made the same mistake twice. He learned from every battle. He could see patterns that others missed. Most scary of all, he seemed to know what the Zephyrian military would do before they did it. "We need to capture him," Emperor Zarak announced. "I want him alive for questioning. If one human can do this much damage, we need to understand how." "Father, no." Princess Lyrelay stood up quickly. All eyes turned to her. "Not him, Father. I'm afraid of that human warrior." The room went completely quiet. A princess of the Zephyrian Empire was never supposed to show fear. It was against their culture. Emperor Zarak stared at his daughter. "What did you say?" Princess Lyrelay's voice was shaking. "I've read all the reports, Father. This human is not like our other enemies. He doesn't fight like them. He doesn't think like them. Every time we try to predict what he will do, he does something else. Every trap we set becomes his trap." She walked to the holographic display and pointed at the videos. "Look at these battles again. Really look at them. He's not just winning by luck. He's winning because he understands us better than we understand ourselves." General Thaxon frowned. "Princess, with respect, he's just one human with primitive weapons." "Primitive?" Princess Lyrelay turned to face the general. "Look at what he accomplished with those primitive weapons. He turned our own advanced technology against us. He made our strength into our weakness. That's not primitive. That's terrifying." "Admiral," Vexus stepped forward. "Are you suggesting we should fear humans?" Princess Lyrelay looked at each face around the table. These were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had defeated armies of millions, but none of them understood what they were really facing. "I'm not saying we should fear all humans," she said quietly. "I'm saying we should fear what this one human represents. He shows us what humans can become when they have nothing left to lose." Emperor Zarak's skin slowly changed from red to purple, the color of deep thought. "Explain." "Father, our intelligence says this human's family was killed in the early mining operations. His friends were forced into labor camps. Everything he cared about was taken away." Princess Lyrelay's voice got quieter. "We didn't just make an enemy. We created something much worse. We created a human with nothing to lose and everything to fight for." The war chamber remained silent as everyone thought about her words. Outside the windows, the lights of the Imperial fleet sparkled in space. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. The greatest military force in the galaxy. But Princess Lyrelay knew that all of that power meant nothing against one human who had learned to fight like they had never seen before. "I still want him captured," Emperor Zarak said finally. Princess Lyrelay closed her 6 eyes. She knew what was coming next, and she knew her father was making a terrible mistake. 3 days after the War Council meeting, Emperor Zarak stood in the elite training facility deep inside his palace. Before him stood 12 of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, the Void Hunters. Each Void Hunter was 3 meters tall, with black armor that could bend light around it. They carried weapons that could cut through solid metal like paper. They had never failed a mission. "Your target is this human," Emperor Zarak said as holographic images appeared in the air. "The one they call Reaper 7. His real name is Marcus Chen." Captain Corax, the leader of the Void Hunters, studied the images. Marcus looked ordinary. Average height for a human, brown hair, simple clothes. "He doesn't look dangerous, Your Majesty." "That's what makes him dangerous," the Emperor replied. "He looks like nothing special, but he has destroyed 12 of our colonies. I want him alive. Use whatever methods you need, but bring him to me." Captain Corax bowed. "It will be done, Your Majesty. How long should we plan for this mission?" "Take as long as you need. But understand this. Failure is not acceptable." The Void Hunters left immediately. Their black ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading for the last known location of the human warrior. On the other side of the galaxy, Marcus Chen sat in the cargo hold of a stolen mining ship. Pieces of alien technology were spread across the metal floor around him. His hands worked quickly, connecting wires and computer chips. For 6 months, he had been fighting the Zephyrian Empire alone. At first, it was just about revenge. They had killed his wife Sarah when they destroyed the human settlement on Kepler 442b. They had enslaved his friends and co-workers, but now he understood something bigger was happening. The Zephyrians were not just mining. They were preparing for something much worse. Marcus finished connecting the last wire and pressed a button. The device in his hands began to beep softly. It was a scanner he had built from stolen Zephyrian equipment. It could detect their surveillance networks. The beeping got faster. Marcus smiled grimly. They were watching him right now. "Well, hello there," he said to the empty air. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Marcus had learned something important about the Zephyrians during his raids. They were excellent at making plans, but terrible at changing them. Once they decided how to do something, they always did it the same way. He picked up another device, a transmitter he had built. With this, he could send false signals to their surveillance network. He could make them think he was somewhere else. Marcus began typing commands into the transmitter. According to his fake signals, he was now heading toward the Tau Ceti system. In reality, he was going in completely the opposite direction. In the Imperial Palace, Princess Lyrelei sat in her private chambers, watching security monitors. Her father had given her access to the Void Hunter mission so she could learn about military operations. But Princess Lyrelei was not watching to learn. She was watching because she was terrified. The monitors showed the 12 Void Hunter ships spread across 3 star systems. They were following sensor readings that said the human warrior was moving toward Tau Ceti. But something felt wrong to the princess. She had studied every battle the human had fought. He never did anything without a reason. Why would he go to Tau Ceti? There was nothing there except empty space and a few asteroids. Princess Lyrelei opened another screen and began checking the real-time sensor data. Her 6 eyes widened in shock. According to the computer, Marcus Chen was in 5 different places at the same time. "Impossible," she whispered. Then she understood. He's not running from them. He's playing with them. Marcus was indeed playing games. For 2 weeks, he led the Void Hunters on a chase across the galaxy. Every time they got close to one of his signals, they found nothing but empty space and a small device broadcasting fake readings. But Marcus was not just having fun. While the Void Hunters chased shadows, he was breaking into Zephyrian computer networks. He was learning their secrets. What he found made his blood run cold. The mining operations were not about minerals. They were about preparation. The Zephyrians were building staging areas for a massive invasion of human space. They planned to enslave every human colony in the galaxy. Marcus sat back in his chair and stared at the stolen data files. Hundreds of worlds marked for conquest. Billions of humans who would be forced into labor camps. The complete destruction of human civilization. "Sarah," he whispered to the memory of his dead wife. "This is so much bigger than I thought." He had been fighting to get revenge for one destroyed colony. Now he realized he was fighting to save his entire species. Marcus began making new plans. The Void Hunters were still chasing his fake signals, but that would not work forever. Eventually, they would figure out his tricks. When that happened, he needed to be ready. He started building new devices, bombs that looked like mining equipment, traps that would activate when touched by Zephyrian scanners, weapons that could be hidden inside everyday objects. Most importantly, he began recording everything he had learned about the invasion plans. If something happened to him, other humans needed to know what was coming. Captain Corax was getting angry. For 2 weeks, his Void Hunters had been chasing a target that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Every sensor reading led to another dead end. "Sir," said Lieutenant Vex over the communication system, "I'm detecting the target signal in the Vega system. Should we investigate? Captain Corax was about to say yes when he stopped. He looked at the star map showing all their previous searches. A pattern was starting to form. Wait, he said slowly. Show me all the locations where we've detected the target. The star map lit up with dozens of points. Captain Corax stared at them for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It was not a happy sound. He's been leading us in circles, Captain Corax realized. Every signal has been exactly the right distance from the last one to keep us moving, but never catching up. What are your orders, sir? Lieutenant Vex asked. Captain Corax thought carefully. The human was clever, much cleverer than they had expected. But Void Hunters were clever too. Stop chasing the signals, Captain Corax ordered. Start looking. For what he's really doing. If he's not running away, then he's working on something. Find out what. Princess Lyrelei watched the Void Hunter ships change direction on her monitors. Her heart began beating faster. They had figured out the human's trick. She opened a private communication channel and began typing a message. It was against all rules to communicate with the enemy. If her father found out, she would be punished severely, but Princess Lyrelei could not stop thinking about what the human warrior represented. He was not fighting for conquest or glory. He was fighting to protect his people. That was something she could understand. The message was simple. They know your trick. Be careful. She sent it to the last known real location of Marcus Chen's ship and hoped he would receive it in time. Princess Lyrelei did not know that Marcus had been expecting this moment. He had known the Void Hunters would eventually figure out his false signals. In fact, he was counting on it, because when they stopped chasing shadows and started looking for him, they would walk directly into the trap he had been preparing for the past 2 weeks. The hunter was about to become the hunted. And Marcus Chen was ready to show the Zephyrian Empire what happened when humans had nothing left to lose. Marcus Chen stood at the edge of the mining platform, looking down at the moon's surface far below. Kepler 442b looked exactly the same as it had 6 months ago when the Zephyrians had destroyed the human settlement here. The same red rocks, the same thin atmosphere, the same deep mining tunnels where his wife Sarah had died. Coming back here hurt his heart, but it was the perfect place for what he needed to do. Behind him, the abandoned mining facility stretched for kilometers underground. The Zephyrians had built it to process rare metals, but they had left it empty after killing all the human workers. Now Marcus was going to use their own facility against them. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. "Final systems check," he said to himself. Red lights blinked to life throughout the facility. Marcus had spent the past 3 days rigging. Every tunnel, every chamber, every piece of equipment with explosives and traps. But these were not random explosions. Every trap was carefully planned to funnel the Void Hunters exactly where he wanted them to go. His communicator beeped. An incoming message. Marcus smiled when he saw it was from Princess Lyrelei again. "They are close," the message said. 12 ships approaching your location. Please be careful." Marcus typed back. "Thank you for the warning, but I want them to find me." On her ship hidden in the asteroid field nearby, Princess Lyrelei read Marcus's response with confusion. Why would he want the Void Hunters to find him? It made no sense. She had disobeyed her father's direct orders by coming here. Emperor Zarek thought she was in her chambers studying military history. If he discovered she was secretly helping the human warrior, she would face severe punishment. But Princess Lyrelei could not stay away. Something about this human fascinated her. He fought differently than any warrior she had studied. He turned weaknesses into strengths. He made impossible victories look easy. Her sensors detected the Void Hunter ships approaching the moon. 12 black vessels moving in perfect formation. Princess Lyrelei held her breath as she watched them surround the mining facility. Captain Corax studied the sensor readings from his command ship. After 2 weeks of chasing false signals, they had finally found the real location of the human warrior. "Target confirmed," reported Lieutenant Vex. One small ship landed at the main platform. Heat signatures show one human inside the facility. Finally, Captain Korak said, "This has taken too long. Are you certain he cannot escape?" "Impossible, sir. We have all exit points covered. The facility only has one way in or out through the main platform. He's trapped." Captain Korax smiled inside his helmet. This human had been clever with his false signals, but now he had made a mistake. He had cornered himself with nowhere to. "Run! All units, begin the assault," Captain Korax ordered. "Remember, the Emperor wants him alive." The 12 Void Hunter ships landed around the facility. Elite warriors in black armor jumped out and ran toward the entrance tunnels. Their weapons were set to stun, not kill. Deep inside the facility, Marcus watched the Void Hunters enter through hidden cameras he had placed everywhere. They moved like they had trained for this exact situation. Professional, careful, deadly. But Marcus had trained for this too. For the past 6 months, he had studied how Zephyrian military units operated. They always used the same tactics. They always followed the same patterns. "Welcome to my home," Marcus whispered as he pressed the first button. The lights in the entrance tunnel suddenly went out. Emergency lighting came on, but it was red and dim. The Void Hunters slowed down, checking their scanners. "Movement detected in Tunnel Section A," one of them reported over the radio. "Target is heading deeper into the facility." Marcus was indeed in Tunnel Section A, but not where they thought. He was crawling through maintenance shafts above their heads, shafts that were too small for the large Zephyrian warriors, but perfect for a human. He dropped down behind the last Void Hunter in line and attached a small device to the warrior's armor. Then he disappeared back into the maintenance shaft before anyone noticed. The device was a signal transmitter. Now Marcus could hear everything the Void Hunters said to each other. Even better, he could send their communications back to the Empire. "Let Emperor Zarek listen to what happened to his elite warriors. Split into 3 groups," Captain Korax ordered. Alpha Team takes the main tunnel. Beta Team takes the service corridors. Gamma Team secures the lower levels. Drive him toward the processing chamber where we can corner him. The Void Hunters spread out exactly as Marcus had hoped they would. He had studied the facility's design carefully. There were only 3 ways to reach the deep levels, and he had prepared special surprises for each path. Alpha Team entered the main tunnel first. Their heavy boots echoed in the metal corridors. As they advanced, their scanners showed heat signatures ahead. The human was running deeper into the facility. What their scanners did not show were the pressure sensors Marcus had hidden in the floor. When the 4th Void Hunter stepped on the trigger spot, the ceiling collapsed behind them. Not enough to hurt anyone, but enough to block their exit. "Alpha Team to command," the team leader reported. "We have a cave-in. Exit route is blocked." "Continue forward," Captain Korax ordered. "Beta and Gamma Teams will secure other exits," but Beta Team was walking into their own trap. Marcus had rerouted the facility's ventilation system. As they moved through the service corridors, invisible sleeping gas began flowing from the air vents. The gas was harmless to humans, but very effective on Zephyrian biology. One by one, the Beta Team warriors began to stumble. Their vision became blurry. Their movements became slow. "Beta Team reporting," their leader said, his voice slurred. "Something wrong. Can't think clearly." "What's your status?" Captain Korax demanded. The response was just confused mumbling, then silence. Princess Lyrelei watched the communications from her hidden ship. She could hear the confusion and fear in the Void Hunters' voices. These were warriors who had never failed a mission, and now they were being defeated by one human in an abandoned mine. What scared her most was how calm Marcus sounded when he occasionally spoke over their communication channel. He was not panicking or angry. He was just working, like this was a normal day at his job. "Gamma Team," Marcus's voice came over the radio. "You're heading toward the processing chamber. That's exactly where I want you to go." "How is he on our frequency?" demanded Captain Korax. "I've been listening to your conversations for 3 days." Marcus replied pleasantly. "Did you really think I would let you coordinate against me? By the way, Emperor Zarek, I know you're listening too. I hope you're enjoying the show." Gamma Team reached the processing chamber, a huge room filled with massive machinery for breaking down ore. Captain Corax was with this team, determined to capture the human personally. "Scanners show he's in here somewhere," reported the team's tech specialist. "But the readings are scattered, like he's moving very fast." "Spread out," Captain Corax ordered. "Check behind every machine. He cannot hide forever." What they did not know was that Marcus had spent 2 days learning every inch of this chamber. He knew which machines still had power. He knew which pipes carried pressurized gas. He knew which supports held up the heavy equipment overhead. As the Void Hunters spread out to search, Marcus began his final game. First, he activated the ore crusher. The massive machine roared to life, its metal jaws opening and closing. The sound was so loud that the Void Hunters could not hear each other speak. Then Marcus opened the gas valves. Jets of compressed air shot across the chamber, strong enough to knock the warriors off balance. Finally, he triggered the magnetic lifts. Heavy chunks of metal ore began floating through the air, spinning slowly as they moved. The chamber became chaos. Void Hunters stumbled through clouds of metallic dust, dodging floating rocks, trying to communicate over the noise of machinery. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Marcus moved like a ghost. He appeared behind one warrior, disabled his armor, and vanished before the others could react. He used the floating ore as stepping stones, jumping from one piece to another high above their heads. "Where is he?" Captain Corax shouted into his communicator. "Right here," Marcus said, dropping down from an overhead crane directly onto the captain's back. 20 minutes later, the processing chamber was quiet again. 12 Void Hunters lay unconscious on the floor, their weapons and armor removed. They were alive, but defeated. Marcus sat on a pile of ore, speaking into Captain Corax's communicator. He knew his words were being broadcast directly to Emperor Zarek. "Your Majesty," Marcus said politely, "I'm returning your Void Hunters to you. They're sleeping peacefully. When they wake up, please tell them they fought bravely. This was not about their skill. This was about knowing the battlefield." He paused, looking around at the facility where his wife had died. "You see, the thing about humans is this. We remember everything. Every friend you killed, every home you destroyed, every life you ruined, and we use those memories to make sure it never happens again." Marcus stood up and walked toward his ship. "I'll be waiting for whatever you send next. But understand this, every time you hunt me, you're teaching me how to hunt you better." The communication ended. In her hidden ship, Princess Lyrale sat in stunned silence. She had just watched one human defeat 12 of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors using nothing but preparation and... Emperor Zarek stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Through the massive windows, he could see 200 Zephyrian warships arranged in perfect formation. It was the largest military force he had ever assembled for a single target. "Your Majesty," Admiral Vexus approached cautiously. "Perhaps such a large fleet is unnecessary for one human?" The Emperor's skin turned dark purple with rage. 12 Void Hunters, Admiral. 12 of my best warriors defeated by a mining engineer with primitive weapons. This human has embarrassed the Empire long enough. The defeat of the Void Hunters had spread throughout the galaxy. Other species were beginning to question Zephyrian strength. Rebellions were starting on conquered worlds. The Empire's reputation was cracking. "This time there will be no escape," Emperor Zarek declared. "We will surround his position with overwhelming force. He cannot run from 200 ships." What the Emperor did not know was that his daughter was listening to every word from her chambers. Princess Lyrale had been watching the military preparations with growing horror. Her father was not just sending soldiers anymore. He was sending enough firepower to destroy entire planets. She thought about the human warrior she had been secretly communicating with. Marcus Chen was dangerous, yes, but he had never hurt civilians. He only attacked military targets. He could have killed the Void Hunters, but he had simply knocked them unconscious. Princess Lyrelei made a decision that would change everything. 2 hours before the Imperial fleet was scheduled to depart, Princess Lyrelei slipped through the palace corridors, wearing a servant's clothing. She had studied the guard schedules for weeks, waiting for this opportunity. The royal hangar held dozens of small ships used for diplomatic missions. Princess Lyrelei chose the fastest scout ship available, a silver vessel with advanced engines and stealth capabilities. Her hands shook as she started the ship's systems. She had never disobeyed her father before. If he caught her, the punishment would be severe. But she could not let him destroy Marcus Chen without trying to find another solution. The scout ship lifted silently from the hangar and disappeared into hyperspace. Princess Lyrelei had calculated Marcus's most likely position based on his previous movements. He was smart enough to avoid his old hiding places, but predictable enough that she might find him. She was racing against time. The Imperial fleet would follow in just a few hours. Marcus Chen sat in the observation deck of Gamma Station, an abandoned research facility floating in empty space between star systems. He was drinking coffee from a metal cup and reading reports on his portable computer. The station had been built by humans 50 years ago to study cosmic radiation, but it was abandoned when the funding ran out. Now it was just another piece of space junk that most people ignored. Marcus had chosen this place carefully. It was far from any inhabited worlds, so innocent people would not be hurt in the coming battle. It had good defensive positions if he needed to fight. Most importantly, it had a powerful communication array that could broadcast to half the galaxy. He had been expecting Emperor Zarek to come personally. The defeat of the Void Hunters had been a public humiliation. Zephyrian culture demanded that the Emperor restore his honor through personal action. Marcus's computer beeped. A small ship was approaching the station. He checked the scanner readings and smiled. It was not the Imperial fleet. It was a single scout ship with Zephyrian royal markings. Princess Lyrelei, Marcus said to himself. I was wondering when you would show up. Princess Lyrelei's ship docked with the abandoned station. She wore a simple blue dress instead of her royal robes, and she carried no weapons. Her 6 eyes were wide with nervous energy as she walked through the station's empty corridors. She found Marcus in the observation deck, sitting calmly as if he had been expecting her. He was smaller than she had imagined, average height for a human, with tired brown eyes and hands that showed the calluses of a working man. Princess, Marcus said politely, standing up to greet her. Would you like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot. Princess Lyrelei stared at him in confusion. This was the terrifying human warrior who had defeated entire armies? He looked like a regular person, someone who might fix broken equipment or teach children about science. You knew I was coming, she said. I've been monitoring your communications. For months, Marcus replied, pouring coffee into a second cup. You're the only member of the Imperial family who questions your father's methods. I figured you might try to negotiate before the shooting starts. Then you know my father is bringing 200 warships to capture you. Marcus nodded and handed her the coffee cup. He's not coming to capture me, Princess. He's coming to kill me. There's a difference. Princess Lyrelei sat down across from him, still trying to understand what she was seeing. Why aren't you afraid? Why aren't you running? Because running won't solve the real problem, Marcus said. He activated his computer and showed her files, filled with data. Your father isn't just mining colonies, Princess. He's preparing to enslave my entire species. The files showed detailed invasion plans, hundreds of human worlds marked for conquest, detailed studies of human biology to determine the best methods of control, plans for breeding programs to create better workers. Princess Lyralay's coffee cup fell from her hands. This cannot be real. It's very real, Marcus said softly. I found these files in your military computers. The mining operations were just the first step. Your father wants to turn every human in the galaxy into a slave. But why? We have robot workers, we have automated systems. Marcus looked out the window at the stars. Because humans are different, Princess. We can survive in environments that kill other species. We can solve problems that stump artificial intelligence. We can work in conditions that would destroy robots. He turned back to her. But most importantly, we never stop trying to escape. That makes us valuable to people who want workers, and dangerous to people who want to stay in power. Princess Lyralay studied the invasion plans with growing horror. She had spent her life believing that the Zephyrian Empire brought order and civilization to the galaxy. Now she was seeing the dark truth behind that civilized surface. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Help me stop this," Marcus said simply. "I've been fighting alone for months, but I'm just one person. I can slow down the invasion, but I can't stop it by myself." "How?" Marcus activated the station's communication array. "Your father is coming here with overwhelming force because he thinks this is about military conquest. But it's not. This is about exposing the truth." On the main screen, images appeared from across the galaxy. News broadcasts from a dozen different species. Independent journalists investigating Zephyrian mining operations. Families of workers who had disappeared. "For months, I've been gathering evidence and spreading it to every free news service in the galaxy," Marcus explained. "The truth about the slave labor camps, the truth about the illegal mining operations, the truth about the invasion plans." Princess Lyralay watched the news reports with amazement. Species she had never heard of were demanding investigations into Zephyrian activities. Independent worlds were cutting diplomatic ties with the Empire. "You're not just fighting a war," she realized. "You're fighting for public opinion." "Exactly," Marcus said. "Your father can defeat me in battle, but he can't defeat the truth. Once everyone knows what the Empire is really doing, other species will unite against you." Princess Lyralay stood up and walked to the window. In the distance, she could see the lights of approaching ships. The Imperial fleet was arriving. "He'll demand that you surrender," she said. "I know," Marcus replied, "and I'm going to offer him something better." "What?" Marcus smiled for the first time since she had arrived. It was not a cruel smile or a threatening one. It was the smile of someone who had found hope in a hopeless situation. "I'm going to offer him a chance to be the hero instead of the villain," Marcus said. "I'm going to show him how to save the Empire's reputation by doing the right thing." Princess Lyralay felt a chill run through her body. She finally understood why this human was so dangerous. It was not his tactical skills or his weapons or his refusal to give up. It was his ability to see solutions where everyone else saw only problems. His ability to turn enemies into allies by appealing to their better nature. Looking at Marcus Chen, Princess Lyralay realized she was not afraid of him anymore. She was afraid for him. Because in a few minutes, he was going to try to convince the most powerful ruler in the galaxy to admit that everything he had been doing was wrong. And if Emperor Zarek refused to listen, Marcus Chen would die for his principles. But somehow, Princess Lyralay suspected that dying for his principles was exactly what Marcus was prepared to do. Outside the window, 200 warships moved into attack formation around the small abandoned station. The final confrontation was about to begin. Emperor Zarek's flagship moved through space like a metal mountain. Behind it, 200 warships formed a perfect sphere around the abandoned research station. Every weapon was powered and ready to fire. Every scanner was focused on the small human hiding inside. "Open a communication channel," the Emperor commanded from his throne on the bridge. "I want to speak to this human before I destroy him." The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the research station's observation deck. Emperor Zarak expected to see a desperate warrior making final preparations for battle. Instead, he saw something that shocked him. Marcus Chen sat calmly at a table drinking coffee. Across from him sat Princess Lyra Lai. "Father," the princess stood up quickly. "Please don't attack. We need to talk." Emperor Zarek's skin turned bright red with fury. "Lyra Lai, what are you doing there? How dare you disobey my direct orders?" "I came here to negotiate," Princess Lyra Lai said. "This human is not what we thought he was. He is a terrorist who has killed thousands of our soldiers." Marcus Chen spoke for the first time, his voice calm and steady. "Actually, Your Majesty, I have killed 0 of your soldiers. Check your records. Every person I fought is still alive." Emperor Zarak paused. He turned to Admiral Vexus, who quickly checked the military databases. He's correct, Your Majesty," Admiral Vexus said with surprise. "No fatalities reported in any of his attacks. Even the Void Hunters were simply knocked unconscious." "Impossible," the Emperor said. "You destroyed 12 of our mining colonies," Marcus nodded. "I shut down 12 illegal slave labor camps. I freed thousands of human workers who were being held against their will. I destroyed equipment that was being used to prepare for an invasion of human space. Those were legitimate mining operations." "Were they?" Marcus activated his computer. Data files appeared on the screen, the same invasion plans he had shown Princess Lyra Lai. "These are your own military files, Your Majesty. Plans to enslave every human colony in the galaxy. Detailed studies on how to break human resistance. Breeding programs to create better workers." Emperor Zarak stared at the files in shock. These were classified at the highest levels. How had a simple mining engineer gained access to them? "Where did you get these?" "From your own computer networks," Marcus said simply. "For 6 months, every time your forces tried to capture me, I was actually hacking deeper into your systems. You see, humans have a talent for turning defensive situations into opportunities." Princess Lyra Lai stepped forward. "Father, I've seen the evidence. What we're doing to the humans is wrong. We're not bringing civilization to their worlds. We're destroying families and enslaving innocent people. They are inferior beings," Emperor Zarak shouted. "They need our guidance." Marcus Chen stood up slowly. When he spoke, his voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath the words. "Inferior?" Marcus asked. "Your Majesty, let me tell you about humans. We survived ice ages that would have frozen your species to death. We built cities in deserts where your people cannot live for a single day. We explored space with technology that your engineers called impossible." He gestured toward the window, where the Imperial fleet waited. "You brought 200 warships to capture 1 human with basic equipment. Does that sound like you're fighting an inferior species?" Emperor Zarak's skin began changing from red to purple, the color of uncertainty. Marcus continued. "But our greatest strength is not our survival skills or our technology. Our greatest strength is that we never stop believing people can change. Even now, surrounded by your entire fleet, I believe you can choose to be better than this. You think I will simply forgive your attacks on our colonies? I think you will recognize that those attacks exposed a corruption in your own government," Marcus said. He activated another screen showing news broadcasts from across the galaxy. "The entire galaxy is watching this conversation, Your Majesty. Independent journalists from 50 different species are reporting on what they found when they investigated your mining operations. The news reports showed the terrible conditions in the labor camps, families torn apart, workers forced to mine, dangerous materials without protection, children separated from their parents. Other species are already cutting diplomatic ties with your empire," Marcus continued. "Not because they fear your military strength, but because they cannot support what you're doing to innocent people." Princess Lyra Lai moved to stand beside Marcus, Father, we can end this right now. We can be the empire that protects people instead of enslaving them. We can be heroes instead of villains. Emperor Zarak looked at his daughter standing next to the human warrior. For months, he had seen Marcus Chen as an enemy to be destroyed. But looking at them together, he began to see something different. His daughter was not afraid of the human. She trusted him. This terrifying warrior who had defeated entire armies was someone his own child felt safe standing beside. "What exactly are you proposing?" Emperor Zarak asked slowly. Marcus smiled. "I propose we work together to expose the corruption in your colonial administration. The people responsible for the illegal slave operations. The officials who violated your own laws about treatment of conquered peoples. In return for what? In return, you become the emperor who saved human civilization instead of destroying it," Marcus said. "You become the leader who chose justice over conquest. You become the ruler that other species respect instead of fear." Emperor Zarak was quiet for a long moment. His skin slowly changed from purple to blue, the color of deep thought. "You would trust me after everything that has happened?" "Your Majesty," Marcus said, "I've spent 6 months studying your empire. I know the difference between your policies and your actions. I know that the slave labor camps were started by colonial governors who were supposed to follow different orders. I know that many of your people are as horrified by this as I am." Princess Lyrelay nodded. "It's true, Father. I've been reading the reports. The corruption started in the colonies and spread because nobody was checking on them." Marcus activated one final screen. It showed a list of names, colonial administrators who had been secretly selling human workers to private companies instead of following official policies about conquered populations. "These are the real enemies," Marcus said. "The people who turned your colonial expansion into a slave trade for their own profit. Help me bring them to justice, and we can end this war before it destroys both our species." Emperor Zarak stared at the evidence for several minutes. His 4 arms were crossed as he thought about everything he had heard. Finally, he spoke. "What you're suggesting would require me to admit that the Empire made mistakes. It would require you to admit that the Empire is strong enough to correct its mistakes," Marcus replied. "That takes more courage than conquest, Your Majesty." Princess Lyrelay held her breath as her father made his decision. Emperor Zarak's skin slowly changed to gold, the color of honor and wisdom. "Admiral Vexus," the Emperor said, "stand down all weapons. Open a secure channel to Imperial Command. I want arrest warrants issued for every name on that list." "Your Majesty?" Admiral Vexus looked confused. "We have been lied to by our own people," Emperor Zarak announced. "This human has shown us evidence of corruption that goes to the heart of our colonial operations. We will work with him to clean house." Marcus Chen smiled and extended his hand toward the screen. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I look forward to working together." Emperor Zarak looked at the offered hand for a moment, then reached toward his own screen as if he could shake it. Princess Lyrelay watched her father and the human warrior make peace, and she finally understood what had made her so afraid of Marcus Chen from the beginning. It was not his ability to fight or his tactical brilliance or even his refusal to give up. It was his absolute faith that anyone, even the most powerful enemy, could choose to do the right thing when shown the truth. That faith had just changed the fate of 2 civilizations, and that was the most powerful force in the universe. 6 months later, the first Human-Zephyrian Cooperation Treaty was signed. The corrupt colonial administrators were arrested and tried for crimes against both species. Marcus Chen was appointed as the first human ambassador to the Zephyrian Empire. Princess Lyrelay became the head of the new Colonial Justice Department, ensuring that such corruption could never happen again. And throughout the galaxy, other species learned that sometimes the most dangerous warriors are not those who fight the hardest, but those who believe most strongly in the possibility of peace.